Hello, my name's Christine, aka Crafty Potential, and I'm on the design team for Arden Creative Studios. And in today's video, I thought we could maybe make a quite simple Remembrance Day kind of card using the brand new Remembering collection from Arden. Maybe using some of the ephemera, some of the rub-ons, some of the stamps, and some of the patterned papers as well. So carry on watching to see what we end up creating. So I think to start off with this card, I've already selected a couple of bits and pieces out of the ephemera pack, and I want to use this section of the gorgeous poppy paper. So you've got 2 sheets of each paper in your pack, so if you want to, you know, do a couple of these cards, you've got plenty of areas on your papers to recreate them, because you could definitely go for that top corner and have that beautiful poppy in there. Or I'm thinking, if we went for this bottom corner, in the set of rub-ons, we've also got a beautiful poppy motif, which is actually the opposite version of the poppy that's up here. And I'm thinking maybe this rubbed over the top of some of these poppies. Maybe if we get this as far over as we can and we try and put the rub-on over the top of this to create like a layered look. And then in the background we've already got some beautiful ledger script as part of the patterned paper, but we also have the actual date here for Remembrance Day that we can put sort of stamping it in the background to kind of emphasise that. And we can also just use the word November in here as well. We could even just use the year and even do 11 with the numbers too. So you can kind of play around with you know, whatever you want to add into the background. I just thought it might be quite nice to add in some extra elements to really make this card more unique rather than just using the pattern papers that we're given. So I think maybe let's get the rub-on out first, just to check where we think we're going to want this to go. So it is slightly smaller than I was thinking, which is nice. So maybe if we're going to want the poppy coming in about there, I'm trying to imagine being able to see through it, but I'm thinking if that is sort of like that, because we can always put the wording over where the stalk of this ends, or add some other ephemera on here as well. But yeah, I'm thinking that would be a nice position. So what I'm going to do is take my scissors and trim out part of this paper to go behind this beautiful frame from the ephemera. We could even turn this into a shaker card actually. Have to think about that, whether we want to do but yeah, we could put the poppy on the acetate in front of it. That might be a lovely extra detail for this as well actually. Yes, I think that would work really nicely. I think we're going to change plans already and actually turn this into a shaker card. I think that will work really well. So in that case, I'm going to get a piece of acetate and cut this to the rough sort of size of my frame, a bit bigger, so we've got a bit of leeway to work with. And then make sure that I've taken the protective covering. I can see it down here. This acetate I'm working with has got a protective layer on it, so I want to make sure I take that off and I don't do my rub-on on top of the actual protective piece. But if we actually do it this way, put our frame underneath our acetate and sort of get it so it's in a nice position, how we would stick the frame on top of it, and then we can add our rub-on on top of our acetate. This is going to work really nicely. Okay, so we want to trim around our rub-on with the backing. You don't want to ever take the whole sheet off the backing and cut around them, because you might risk damaging some of the other rub-ons before you've used them. But you want to trim around like so, and then we can peel the sheets apart to get the top one with the image on. And we can actually have this whole thing layered up together because this is see-through, and we'll be able to tell like where we want it to be. Where are we going to put that? I think maybe we will put that wording going across here, so then we can put the stalk of the poppy coming down there like that. I think that's going to work really nicely. So we'll layer that on. Move these out of the way. I like to use a glide folder to rub on my rub-ons, but you can also use a ball tool or the stick that they come with as well. And just press nicely all over to attach it onto the acetate, and they work really nicely onto acetate and vellum and all sorts of different surfaces as well. If you've not tried them on any other surfaces, they work really nicely. And let's check to see if I've rubbed this on enough. Oh, missed a little bit of the leaf there. Oh, a little bit of the poppy's missing up there as well. Okay, perfect. So we've now got our gorgeous poppy transferred onto our acetate. Then we're going to be layering up the frame over the top of the acetate. We're going to put that beautiful paper behind, so the poppy is now in front, giving us some extra layers of beautiful poppies on here. And then we can pick up our remembering sentiment, and I think putting that just across there is going to look absolutely gorgeous. Now we also want to do some stamping on this background piece, and possibly straight onto our background panel of cardstock as well. So I just get a panel of white card. How nicely the frame fits on there, absolutely perfect. We could do some of the stamping into the background, or we could just do the stamping on the ledger paper behind. And there may even be some other elements that we might want to place onto here from the ephemera pack. I'm thinking maybe a butterfly would look nice. We could pick out one of the butterflies from in here. If I get a little container to pour all of our ephemera into, you can see what else is in here that would work well. Some of these butterflies are quite large in this set. Maybe they're going to overpower the poppies. We could use a rub-on butterfly maybe. Or maybe we don't need a butterfly. Maybe that's just going to be adding too much on there. I mean, inside this actual frame we had these pieces in here, and that button is pretty nice. Could maybe even use some buttons, because there are a few buttons in this beautiful ephemera pack that we can use to kind of add some extra embellishment onto here. I quite like the buttons actually. There's also cogs in here too, which is really nice. You've even got old keys and padlocks on here as well. Maybe an old padlock would look nice. Is there a small key? Yeah, there's a small key that would go nicely with that. We could maybe have a key and a padlock on here. I quite like that actually. Then you're kind of like locking in the memories and remembering them forever. I quite like that. Okay, I think no butterfly, and I think go for the button and a padlock and a key. That's going to work really nicely. And then I think a bit of stamping, and I think that's going to sort of bring this nice quick card together quite nicely. Obviously we've got to decide on some confetti to go inside as well for our shaker. But let's have a think of what stamping we want. Do we want it to be evident, or do we want it to be more subtle? I think I quite like the plain white around the edge. It's not too detracting. And I think what I'm going to do is move all of this off to the side. I'm just going to get a piece of scrap paper. And I think possibly, which dark brown? Maybe the Fallen Leaves dark brown. And then stamping the lovely date on here. It doesn't have to be legible. I mean, obviously it's legible, but you know, it doesn't have to be seen, basically, the whole thing. Just having hints of it, I think, is going to look nice in the background. So we've got November up there, and we could put the year down here. Smudge that a little bit. I think it'll be alright. The confetti and stuff will hide it. That was a very juicy inking up of that stamp, I think. Or actually the second and third generation of this looks really nice because it's just really subtle. Yeah, I like that. And then possibly the word November as well. And I think maybe do second generation November would look really nice. So stamp it off on the scrap. And then, yeah, that looks really nice. Just a little bit of extra detail. And stamp that off and put another one down there. Yeah, that looks really good. I think I'm going to turn this over and blot those first two stamped impressions as well because my ink was very juicy on those. Just going to dry it off a little bit. I will use the heat tool on that quickly to dry it off, but you can see we've just got that little extra bit of detail on there. And if we pick up the frame with all of the bits and pieces on, you can see it's just really nice just to be able to see a little bit of extra information kind of behind from adding that little bit of stamping on there. I think that looks really lovely. So I'm just going to dry that so we don't get any more smudging happening. Okay, I think that's pretty much dry now. It looks really nice adding those extra details. Then let's bring in all of these elements ready to build up our shaker card. Now with the ephemera they have kind of like a wide white border around them. I think it actually looks alright on this frame. There are a couple little pips that I want to cut off, but I actually don't mind the wide border on this one because we're going to put it straight onto a piece of white card to go on our card blank. I think it's going to look nice keeping this on, so I'm just going to trim those little pippy pieces off that are always there. That's just how the die cuts are held into whatever they're cut out of when they're manufactured. But you can leave them if you want, or if you don't like them, just a little snip with your scissors just gets rid of those. So I think that's all right. So that's going to go on top of there like that. We've got our lovely remembering sentiment. Again, just a couple of little pips on here. I'm just going to snip those off to go across there. Then I might trim the white border on these a little bit smaller. Okay, so I've just trimmed those a little bit smaller just so they've got slightly less of a white border around them. Then the next step is to put our piece of paper back underneath this so we can tell exactly where we wanted it to go, and place our frame over the top, and then just take some double-sided tape and put it behind our frame to stick it to the acetate. Like so. Then once we have our frame on the acetate, we want to undercut all of this leftover acetate that's around the edge. So you just want to take your scissors in an angle underneath the frame and just snip off any of that excess acetate that's poking out. And a little bit round this side as well. Okay, there we go. So we've now just got the acetate where the frame is. And then we want to flip this over and put some 3D foam around the perimeter to create our shaker well. And we are going to do this differently. Normally we would put our foam around this, fill this full of our shaker bits, and then put our backing on. But because we want this to be in a specific place over the top of this, I'm going to put my shaker well on here, but then I'm going to put the confetti on the paper and then put the frame on top of it. So just a slightly different way of doing it, just to make sure that we get our elements and decorative pieces exactly where we want them to go. So we've got our perimeter of foam tape on there. And then we want to add our confetti. I'm just going to go with a clear iridescent heart confetti, just something really subtle and simple, just to add something in the shaker but not detract from what we're, like the sort of message of the poppies and everything. So just a little bit of that, then take the foam tape off, the liner off the foam tape. We don't have to worry about these gaps in the corners because we're not using micro beads or anything really tiny. Those confettis aren't going to get through any of the gaps that are there. And then we want to press this onto our poppy background where we want it to be. I think about there looks good. And we want to press that firmly to get it to bond, but not quite so firmly that we end up sticking it to our mat. Okay, so now we've got our beautiful shaker made. I'm very glad we decided to turn this into a shaker and put those poppies on the acetate, because that looks really nice having the confetti going behind some of the poppies and over the top of the others. So now we've got our beautiful shaker frame, which we can place into position on our card, and then let's finish layering up all of the other elements that we wanted to add. So we're definitely adding the remembering as our beautiful sentiment going across here. I think that padlock looks absolutely beautiful just on that corner. We can add in the key overlapping there as well, and I think the little button looks really nice just on there. It gives it another little element to kind of decorate this with. So I'm going to go with 3D foam to put some of these on, I think, so that they're just a little bit more dimensional. So all that's left to do now is to stick this onto our card, and we could actually just put it straight onto the card blank itself. I think that would work really nicely, just directly onto the card blank. So all we want to do is flip this over and put some double-sided tape across the back of it. So place that right in the centre. And actually, we have a gorgeous pack of enamel dots in this Remembering collection, and this beautiful, almost like beigey colour, I think would work really nicely on this card. Just for an extra little embellishment. So let's add a few of these on as well. Where do we think? Maybe 1, 2, and then maybe the little one almost coming off the edge of the frame. And then perhaps we could also do a large and a medium one down here, poking out from underneath our sentiment and then going onto the frame down there. I think that finishes it off absolutely perfectly, and the enamel dots are fantastic because each collection that has enamel dots in comes with 6 different colours, and you get 3 of each of 3 different sizes as well, so you've got a lovely variety to use on your projects too with your entire collection as well. But I hope you've enjoyed this really quick video showing you how you can make a lovely Remembrance Day style card using the fantastic Remembering collection from Arden, and just showing you how you can do it as a really quick and simple shaker card. And I have also made this card as well, just a really simple thinking of you card for a next door neighbour who's in his 90s, and whenever I see old planes I always think of him, so I just had to do him a thinking of you card. And I've actually used the beautiful alphabet stickers from this Remembering collection. I've used some as positive and some as negative just to show you how your letter stickers can go further, and you can actually create 2 letters from each one letter if you use the outside piece of them. Plus I have also used an alcohol pen to colour them just to make them a little bit more legible. Someone being in their 90s, you kind of need to make a sentiment a little bit more legible for them to be able to read easily, and it kind of matches in a little bit better with the aeroplanes that I've chosen on this card as well. So just another quick card to kind of show you another use for this beautiful Remembering collection if you love making cards. All of the other design team members have shown tons of inspiration using this whole Remembering collection to remember, with beautiful journal pages and scrapbook pages as well. So do make sure to check out all of the rest of the design team's projects as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye!